So good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining tonight. My name is Tara Gianchow. I am the Assistant Director of Admissions here at the UB School of Social Work, and I also have one of our current MSW student ambassadors. Rashida, would you like to introduce yourself to the group?
Yeah, hi. It's nice to see a couple of faces. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm a current student at UB's MSW program. I'm an international student and I'm a full-time student. I'm a traditional student, so I've done doing the 2 years program. Yeah, I'm always here if you need to chat, and along the way, if you have a couple of questions, you can just put them in the chat or reach out to me later, and we'd be there to help you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Rashida. And again, welcome if you're just logging on. So we've got some slides to share tonight. Typically, that takes me about a half an hour, a little more to go through the information. Certainly, if you have questions as we're going through, you can type them in the chat. Rashida can be able to respond from her student perspective, but if they're specific to the application process, I can help out with those in the end. And we will have probably, 15, maybe up to 20 minutes of an open question and answer period at the end. So hopefully we'll cover all of your questions within the presentation, but if not, we'll have some time to get to that. So let's get started here. Again, I'm your host, Tara Ganshaw, the Assistant Director for Admissions and Enrollment. My email is right there on the screen, tkegley@buffalo.edu. If you have questions after tonight, feel free to email me directly. Here is our agenda. So we're going to begin with why choosing social work at UB, some of the different MSW program tracks you can choose from, what the curriculum would look like for both traditional and advanced standing tracks, a typical week in the life of an MSW student from Monday to Friday, also details about your practicum hours that are built right into the curriculum. We'll talk about application prerequisites and the process, as well as upcoming deadlines to start in fall 2026 or later. And then also some more details about our tuition, some scholarship and funding information, and wrap up with licensure details. So if you don't have, or if you do have more questions outside of those areas, again, feel free to put it in the chat and we'll get to it later on. So why choose social work at UB? A common question we do have is, what is the difference really between an MSW degree and some other types of counseling degrees? So I would say one main difference is the scope of the coursework. Many counseling programs offer training only at the micro level, which would be learning to work with individuals in small groups. So the MSW degree is more broad than other counseling programs because you do receive training not only at the micro level, but also meso and macro levels. The discipline of social work can be divided into those three main practice areas that you see on the screen. So micro, meso, macro. And that's reflected at different levels, and social workers may work at one level or, kind of go between the levels within the same position. So they are not exclusive. For instance, a school social worker addressing attendance with an individual student would be the micro level, might also uncover barriers to attendance common in their school district is the meso level. And that same school social worker might then advocate to change policies at all schools at the state level, which would be macro social work. So MSW coursework allows you to work in a variety of settings outside of clinical counseling. And UB does offer a mental health counseling program, which is housed in the Graduate School of Education. UB also offers PhD programs within psychology from arts and sciences. So there are a lot of different programs to choose from, but I would say a social worker can do everything that a mental health counselor can do, but it doesn't work in the reverse. Mental health counselors are not trained to do everything that a social worker does. So in this way, a MSW degree really offers more career flexibility. The field is so diverse and there's many options for practice across the length of an entire career. and why choose social work at UB? Lots of reasons. So currently we are celebrating over 90 years of the School of Social Work at UB. Our program is well established in Western New York, and we do have strong partnerships for practicum hours. The program is highly ranked nationally, so we are in the top 10% of CSWE accredited social work programs by US News and World Report. So the CSWE is our national accrediting body. That means that your MSW degree would be recognized in every state if you do plan to move in the future. Licensure does vary by state, so we'll touch on those details a little later. Another perk is that as a SUNY school, our program is affordable. We do have differential tuition rates for New York State residents and out-of-state or international students. Our rates are competitive with both private schools and a number of state schools. Additionally, we do offer tuition scholarships and other means of financial support to qualified students. Tuition rates are posted on the website, but I will share those in these slides as well. Also, you're not just a number at the School of Social Work, and I think Rashida could tell you a little bit about her experience with class sizes, but on average, it's about 25 students, and they're capped at 30 students, no matter if you're in person or an online student. So would you say that's accurate, Rashida?
I would. Most classes are in that capacity, which also helps us because we have that relationship with the professor. You might see some familiar faces in some classes, or you might meet new students every semester just because some classes have multiple sections, but that's generally the size. Yep.
Great, thank you. Another reason to pick UB would be we're located in the city of Buffalo. It's the second largest city in New York State. There's lots of opportunities for diverse practicums in our local area to enrich your education. Also, our faculty are involved in diverse research topics like child welfare and family services, social policies and poverty, racialized and ethnic minorities, trauma and human rights, and more. If you are going to attend classes on campus, UB has not only apartments on campus, so you can look at those options at buffalo.edu/campus living, but also affordable housing in the area too. So some grad students do opt to rent a house close to campus since it is affordable. And then finally, there is an easy commute between our north and south campus, which is just about a 10-minute drive. And we do have a campus shuttle that runs regularly between those two campuses. You also have the ability to customize your classes since we do not have a set concentration. So people that are looking to pursue school social work or, clinical counseling in the future, you can absolutely do that, but just tailor your elective courses as well as advanced interventions and topic analysis to mix and match according to your career interests. So I would encourage everyone to look at those options, which can be found on our website under the academics tab. And finally, through our MSW program, students gain an in-depth knowledge and practice theory and research methods. The trauma-informed and human rights lenses complement this by helping social workers better understand the work that they do. Social workers with a trauma-informed lens ask their clients or think about it with the perspective, what happened to this person rather than what is wrong with them. We realize that many people carry past trauma in their lives, and our students are taught the skills to avoid re-traumatizing clients and help inform policy change within organizations and communities. So the skills attained in our program will help make you more marketable in a future role. So on the screen, you're going to see a lot of different options for the MSW program. On the right-hand side of the screen are some doctoral programs we offer at UB. There is a full-time on-campus PhD program, as well as a part-time online DSW, a Doctor of Social Work, and then other dual degree options, including with the law school, School of Management for MBA, and Masters in Public Health are some of the dual degrees. Those are all offered full-time on campus. So tonight we're really going to focus on MSW only. If you are interested in a dual degree, there are other information sessions available with recordings on our website that you can watch as well. But tonight we're really going to focus on the traditional MSW, which you see on the left-hand side of the screen, and advanced standing. So both of those are offered full-time on campus, part-time on campus, or part-time online. A common question we get is, do you have a full-time online program? The answer is no, it's only offered part-time online. So to qualify for the traditional MSW track, you should have a bachelor's degree in any subject from an accredited college or university, and an undergrad GPA of a 3.0 is preferred. If you do have lower than a 3.0, you can address that within the personal statement. So I'll talk about that a little more later. And then advanced standing, I'm going to show you a little more here about the requirements. So you need to fulfill all of the criteria to qualify for advanced standing that's listed at the bottom of the screen. So those students would need a BSW, a Bachelor's in Social Work from a CSWE accredited program, and it has to be within 6 years from your start date. So if you are planning on starting fall 2026, you should have graduated with your BSW in 2020. So that's how we count those 6 years. And it does need to be a bachelor's in social work. We often, get questions about, well, if I have this degree in psychology or another related field, can I qualify for advanced standing? Unfortunately, no. In that case, you would apply to traditional MSW instead. Also, for advanced standing, you do need a minimum of a 3.0 for all your social work major classes taken in the BSW degree. So we'll take an average of those. And then a 3.0 overall GPA is recommended. So that's for advanced standing. We'll go through each one a little more with the curriculum on the coming slides, but if you have questions, you can definitely ask me in the chat, or we'll talk about it a little later. All right, so next slide here. There we go. So traditional MSW, you'll see the curriculum on the screen. For full-time on the left-hand side would take 2 years to complete the degree. If you're studying part-time on campus or part-time online, that would take 3 years for the traditional track. So this is open to any bachelor's degree. It doesn't matter what your field is. So you'll see in the full-time track, it is a fall semester start only. What you see is what you get. You can't really speed up or slow down the program since there is a specific order the classes should be completed in. And also every course is not offered each semester. So you do kind of have to stick to that order. You'll be completing your 2 practicums over a span of the 4 semesters. So what's awesome for our full-time students, you get in your practicum experience right away that very first semester. Rashida, did you want to comment at all about your practicum hours?
Yeah, I can give you like a rough overview of what practicum looks like during the semester. I'm a traditional student, so I'm doing the 2-year program. Every week, most students usually pick like 2 days out of the week to go to practicum, but you can also split those hours depending on like your other things in your life and your classes and stuff like that. But most people do it twice a week. And this can also be worked out with the placement that you're at. See what days both of you can work out together. So we typically do like 7.5 hours a day. Like we try to get in like 15 hours a week. So we have like the needed, like whatever hours we need by the end of the semester. And what we do is maybe let's say you have classes on Mondays and Tuesdays, then you can like take 7.5 hours on Wednesday and the other 7.5 on Thursday, have that long weekend, or some people prefer that Friday to work. So it really depends on your schedule, and there is that flexibility.
Great. Thank you, Rashida. So It represents the full-time schedule on the left. If you're studying classes part-time, you're really taking the same courses just at a slower pace. So instead of 4 classes in a semester, you're only going to take 2 on average. So you're going to see in that first fall semester, 2 of your core classes. Beginning in semesters 4 and 5, that represents your first practicum, the foundation. And then at the end of the program, the last spring and summer, semesters 8 and 9, is where you would do your advanced practicum. So the timing is just a little different, but you're completing the same coursework. Please also note that for the traditional track, part-time, you're still starting in the fall no matter what. So there is no spring semester start there. And then for anyone that does have their bachelor's in social work and the 3.0 in their social work major classes, you may qualify for advanced standing. This is what the curriculum would look like for you. Please note for full-time, it is a summer semester start. So if you're looking at full-time advanced standing for summer 2026, those applications are open right now. If you're also a New York State resident, what's really great, if you haven't heard about it yet, there is funding from New York State called CPT, which actually pays for the degree in entirety. So please talk to me in more depth later on if you're looking at that full-time advanced standing. I'll forward you the information on that funding program. But that would be a summer semester start, and it only takes a year to complete full-time, or 1.5 years part-time, either on campus or online. If you're doing the part-time advanced standing, it is a spring semester start only. So keep that in mind. We've gotten some emails recently. Can I start spring 2026? Unfortunately, it's too late to apply for that one. So you would be looking ahead 1 more year to a spring 2027 start. Okay, so that's the curriculum, which is also on our website too, if you ever want to look at it. And then these students for advanced standing only complete 1 advanced practicum since they already completed the first during their bachelor's degree. All right, typical week in the life. So Rashida talked about her practicum hours a little bit. Usually for a full-time student, it might be 2 days a week. Depending on the organization where you're working, it could be 3 days a week. Some people spread it out like a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for 5 hours. So it really depends on where you are. So this is a hypothetical schedule. So you'll notice for a full-time student, anticipate about a 50-hour-a-week time commitment. So that includes your 4 classes. Also, your practicum hours are about 15 hours per week. And then you do want to reserve time for reading and doing the writing assignments. Everything involved with the MSW degree is about 50 hours full-time. So that being said, if you already work a full-time job, please, please, please do not apply to our full-time MSW. It's really just not enough hours in the week to do that. So we do have a lot of students that are working full-time that apply to our part-time options instead. That's represented on the lower half of the screen. That's about a 20-hour per week commitment. So a lot more feasible if you are working full-time during the day because the classes are always offered in the evenings from 6 to 9 p.m. So instead of the 4 classes full-time per semester, you're typically taking 2 classes per semester. So it might be a Monday, Wednesday night or a Monday, Tuesday, depending on when it's offered, and then save a little time also for homework and studying. If you are a student living in the Buffalo region that plans to apply to our online MSW, just keep in mind preference is given to students over 50 miles from campus. So you can still apply to that program. However, you might be placed on a wait list and offered a spot in our on-campus program instead. So please choose only one program to apply to. We do not want you to have to pay the application fee twice for both an on-campus program and online. You do have to pick one or the other. Also, I'll mention for the online classes, it's a mix of synchronous and asynchronous sessions. So you can expect probably up to 5 live Zoom sessions each semester. And that way you're still going to build a relationship with faculty and other classmates, be able to have that open dialogue about what you're learning in the course, but also with asynchronous work built into that online program. So if you're having trouble deciding which would be the best fit for you, you can certainly talk to me later on. I do one-on-one 20-minute appointments with students either over the phone or on Zoom, whatever is easiest for you. Okay, let's talk about practicum a little more. So for the traditional track, you are completing 2 practicums over 4 semesters for full-time students. The first year would be 420 hours, and then your advanced practicum is a little more for 480. So by the end of the program, you're completing 900 hours total. For advanced standing, they only need to complete 1 for the advanced practicum. So on average, like we already said, it's about 15 hours per week. A lot of our partner organizations locally here near Buffalo and Erie and Niagara County, we have about 350 partnerships. Most of those work on a typical business week, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. So like Rashida was talking about, you're probably doing that twice a week, for 7.5 hours each day, totaling your 15 hours. So please don't expect to find an agency that's offering evening or weekend hours. That being said, if you are able to arrange that yourself, if you already have a pre-existing relationship with an organization, maybe you already work there, employment-based practicums are allowed. And, if they offer weeknight or weekend hours, that's great. If you can arrange it, just don't expect it. For online students, the process is a little bit different with arranging your practicum. So we do want you to pick your top 3 where you live. For example, if you're in the New York City area, identifying local agencies that have a social worker on staff that can supervise your hours. Our practicum education office will also assist with the necessary paperwork. If you're really at a loss of trying to identify those organizations, they can provide you a list of where prior students have already done their practicums in the past, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's the best fit for you. You want something close to home with an easy commute and also relevant to the area of social work you're looking to pursue. And again, if you're already working in an agency where there's a social worker on staff, you could be approved for an employment-based practicum. So that makes life a lot easier if you're already working there and able to negotiate with your current supervisor how you can work that into your normal work week. Rashida, did you want to add anything else about an organization that you're already working with?
Yeah, I think I was actually just going to answer one of those questions. I could go in depth later. I don't want to take too much time right now, but briefly, I did my bachelor's in sociology, and I've been interested in domestic violence and religious discourse and other similar topics. So a wide variety, but my main focus has been domestic violence. So my first internship and my second year internship both have been in DV placements. I typically in the first year you can't really choose or put your preferences like Tara said, but in your second year you would be able to. However, my advice is if you really have something in particular that you want to specialize in or work in or an agency that you know already, you can still advocate for yourself and talk to the field team, and they would be able to help you out to see which one's best for you. So that's what I also did. Going in, I worked at Rahama for my first year placement. It was a DV agency, a nonprofit, and I knew their placement before through other students when I was applying, and I was really interested in working there. So I spoke to the field team, and I was able to get that. Fortunately, But also, if you don't have anything in mind, you're kind of open to things, you want a general area to practice in, that is completely fine too. You don't need to have that in mind. In my second year, I'm working at Haven House, which is another nonprofit organization. I'm working as a hotline intern here, so I usually answer calls when people usually call when they're in crisis or not looking for shelter and things like that. So I'm able to like direct them to resources, provide safety planning, just talk to them over the call, supportive counseling, talk about shelter. We learn how to do the shelter screening and different things like that. And I'm also able to be a little more flexible with my experience at Haven House. I was able to tell them other areas that I was interested in, like shelter intakes or shadowing for counseling and support groups. So it would really depend on your placement and how flexible they are with the kind of work they'd want you to do. In your advanced year, you're generally able to do more specific to like maybe shadowing and counseling and things like that, just because you would have done the intervention classes in your first year. And so internships would know that you've had that course, you've completed the course and the work to be able to do this in the second year. But that's just the general experience. If you have any specific questions, I can still answer later in the end. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. All right. So we're going to move ahead to application prerequisites. So to apply to the MSW for the traditional track, any students must have a bachelor's degree from any subject, and it should be an accredited college or university. A 3.0 GPA is recommended. Also, we do look for 24 credits of liberal arts. So the list of everything is on our website. I'll mention it briefly here. It's probably going to go in one ear and out the other, so don't worry about jotting information down. If you want to email us your transcript to double check, make sure you satisfy these groups, that's fine. But typically, if you attended a liberal arts school, chances are you have these classes. So we are looking for 6 credits in social or behavioral sciences. Examples of those classes would be psychology, sociology, anthropology, or political science. So as long as you have 2 of those classes, you're fine. The middle category would be arts and humanities. So those classes would be history, English, foreign language, philosophy, or ethnic and gender studies. So if you have 2 of those courses, you satisfy that part. And then 12 more credits could be those categories as well as natural science or math. So we're looking for those 24 liberal arts overall. Again, if you're unsure, just email us your transcript and we'll check that out for you. Another course they look for is human biology. Now, I would say about half of our applicants already have this, but it is a rare course that you might not know to take before the MSW degree, and that's perfectly fine. We do offer it in, that you can take it prior to your advanced MSW coursework. So you don't need it at the time of the application, but you might take it the summer before or your first semester, depending on what makes sense for you financially. Some other students will just, if you don't have it already, you could also take it at a community college for a cheaper cost. But typically what's approved, it's labeled human biology on the transcript, or even anatomy and physiology would be approved. And then for advanced standing students, in addition to what was mentioned at the top, you should also have a bachelor's in social work within the last 6 years of starting your MSW degree. The social work classes overall, you need to have a 3.0 minimum, and then we do look for a 3.0 GPA or higher overall. The reason for that 3.0 GPA benchmark is really that you do need to maintain a 3.0 in the MSW coursework in order to earn the degree. So we do want to set up our students for success. If your GPA is lower than a 3.0, don't rule yourself out. Certainly there's ways to address it with your personal statement, and I'll cover that next. So here's what the application process will entail. It's pretty easy to get started. Just go on our website, socialwork.buffalo.edu. You'll create a username, a password, and really just start filling out those fields. It's almost in 2 parts. So I would say the first part might take you about 15 minutes to complete, not too much there. just entering, your biographical information, academic history. They will ask you to list 3 recommenders. So this is important to consider early on. Who are your best 3 people that know you in an academic or professional capacity that can provide a really strong letter of recommendation? So examples of people to ask, if you're a current student in your undergraduate study, it makes sense to ask faculty that have taught your courses. If you are finishing up your bachelor's in social work and doing your field education, you could ask a field educator. If it's been a number of years since you've been in school and you've been working and don't really have contact with any of your prior professors, that's perfectly fine. It can be all 3 recommendations from work supervisors or even colleagues. So those are all acceptable sources. Some people not to ask, please don't ask personal friends, relatives, friends of the family. If they reference a friendship relationship inside the letter, we cannot use it. So just keep that in mind. Also, please do not ask anyone that you've received services from or given services to. Examples could be like if you are a nanny or babysitter or also a therapist. Please steer clear of those people for a recommendation. And then, if you're unsure, just ask. We'll help you out there. I'm skipping ahead too far. There we go. All right. So when you do list their name, you're going to enter their email address and their relationship to you. It's going to generate an evaluation form for them to fill out in their email, and they're also going to upload a letter of recommendation for you. So just give that person a heads up. Please give them plenty of time before the application deadline to do this. You do not want to give them a couple weeks because, if you're asking a current professor, chances are 10 other students are asking that same professor for a letter. So give them plenty of time to give you a quality recommendation. All right, so that was number 1. Number 2 will be unofficial transcripts. So we are able to accept unofficial transcripts for all schools attended. I would suggest actually looking at your transcript, especially if it's been a number of years since you've been in school. You might have forgotten, oh, I got a D in this particular class, or maybe you were just below that 3.0 threshold. In that case, they do want you to talk about that in the application essay. So keep those things in mind, but look at your transcripts. We do need copies for them for all schools attended. So if it's listed as transfer credit, a local example might be you started at Niagara Community College and then earned your bachelor's degree at Niagara University. We do need the transcripts from both schools. One exception to that rule would be if you took the college classes in high school, we do not need those transcripts. Okay, so any questions, let us know. Unofficial is fine. If the university is charging you a fee to have it sent to our office, a lot of schools use a system called Parchment. Just have it sent as an official. So official means it comes directly from that school to our office. Once it comes from you, the student, at that point, it is unofficial. So we do not want you to have to pay 2 times for the transcripts. Once you are an admitted student, we will need an official transcript sent. All right, number 3 is the application essay. So this truly, I would say, is the most important part of the application. You do want to devote the most time to developing your essay in response to the questions that are on our website. So one of the questions is regarding a social issue or problem that's important to you and motivates your decision to pursue the MSW degree. It's really your opportunity to tell us how UB is a good fit for you. So do a little research on the program and maybe talk to our ambassadors like Rashida and their experience. So, knowing that it is the best fit for you. If you do have any lower grades or the GPA is just below a 3.0, please give the faculty committee reading your essay context about that situation. Let us know if there was a certain life event that caused the grades to fall a little bit, and then tell them a plan of how you're in a place in your life moving forward where you know you can be academically successful and maintain that 3.0 GPA or higher. An average length for the essay would be 3 to 5 pages, but please limit it to no more than 7 pages. And then beyond that, if you are citing any sources, if it's an academic journal, they do want APA style citation. That is number 3. All right, number 4, there is going to be an application fee. So depending on the program you're applying to, it's $75 for on-campus programs or $100 for the online MSW. We do have certain students that would qualify for an application fee waiver. Some of those groups would be if you were recently in EOP, HEOP, McNair Scholar, SEEK program, also if you're a veteran, and we also evaluate students for financial need. So if you want to be considered for a waiver, let us know and I can give you the documentation we would need. Finally, international students. So there is going to be a financial form that you need to complete once you are an admitted student, and showing your ability to pay for the duration of study. Also, depending on your country of origin and your academic history, we may require official English proficiency scores within the last 2 years. So on our website, there's a lot of details about the minimum scores, but some of the tests you could take would be TOEFL, IELTS, and then if you don't have a recent one, Duolingo might be the fastest way to get the test scores back in time before the application deadline. All right, any questions, let us know. Here are those deadlines. So at the top are the traditional tracks. If you're applying to our full-time or part-time on campus, it would be due April 1st. If you're applying to the part-time online, that deadline is a little earlier, so just watch for that. It's February 16th. So those are hard deadlines, so there's not really wiggle room there. Once the deadline passes, the application portal literally blocks you out from applying. So make sure you submit at least by that date. Usually there's a 1-week grace period if you're just missing a recommendation or still need to upload your essay, but keep those deadlines on your calendar. For advanced standing students, the bottom half of the screen shows the start date for full-time is summer 2026. Again, if you're applying to full-time advanced standing, talk to me more about that funding opportunity through New York State. That would be due February 2nd to apply. And then part-time on campus or online advanced standing is going to be a spring semester start only. So that would actually be starting spring 2027. So you'd be looking ahead to October 1st, 2026 for that application deadline. Okay, so that's a lot of deadlines. Again, it's on our website if you need to check back afterwards. Tuition and funding. So you will see that there is a different cost for a New York State resident versus out-of-state or international students. So the top two show part-time programs, which are billed per credit hour. So if you're trying to figure out the overall cost of the program and you are a traditional student, it is 60 credits total. So you would multiply that rate by 60 to get the cost over the duration of the program. If you're a full-time student, it's billed per semester. So an example for a New York State resident, that's about $8,200 per semester. You're attending the full-time program for 4 semesters, so you just multiply it by 4 to get the cost. And then those rates are based on current tuition for fall 2025. It does include fees built into that cost. So now that you see the price, the next obvious question is, okay, how do I pay for this? The bottom are a lot of ways that are typical for our students to fund the degree. What's nice is automatically when you apply, especially for on-campus students, there is scholarship money available. So if you are a top-tier applicant, which means you have a strong GPA, a really well-written personal statement that addresses the prompts, and then 3 strong letters of recommendation, chances are you're going to get some scholarship money from us, and you'll see that right in your acceptance letter from the program. So depending on the type of program, those awards might range from $500 up to $2,500 per semester. We do also have a graduate opportunity program at UB, and it's changed a little bit recently. So when you fill out our application, there's going to be a question: have you earned an undergraduate degree while enrolled in EOP, HEOP, or SEEK? If you check yes, you're automatically going to be considered for that scholarship through GOP. Their priority deadline is March 1st. So even though our application deadline on campus is April 1st, I would say apply earlier than that just to make sure that you're considered for that graduate opportunity program to get that funding. So since they're doing things a little differently this year, they're basically taking all of the funding and dividing it among all the qualified applicants. So historically, most people got a full scholarship. It may be close to that amount, but it could be partial depending on how many people qualify this year. So just be aware of that. And then any veterans, please contact our Office of Veterans Affairs. They can help you with additional funding opportunities and understanding your benefits. Another idea, if you're currently working either part-time or full-time, it does not hurt to ask your employer if they have any scholarships available. They might also have a tuition reimbursement plan that you're not aware of. So go ahead and ask what's available in the workplace. And then as a last resort, there are always the student loans through the FAFSA. The one main difference between undergraduate and graduate study is I'm losing my train of thought here. So the grant opportunities. If you previously received Pell or TAP, unfortunately, that's not available for graduate study, but you can still access the low interest federal loans. So most grad students are usually eligible for up to $20,500 per year, which would cover the cost of a New York State resident in our MSW program. Also, if you are a Canadian citizen, you can use OSAP to access student loans to help pay for the program too. All right, licensure. So it does vary from state to state, but these are particular to New York State. Students that plan to become licensed in another state should check the licensure requirements for that state where you want to work in the future, though it may be very similar to what you see on the screen here for New York. We do have a link available on our website to check requirements outside of New York, but let's talk about these two now. So usually within a couple months of graduating from our MSW program, a lot of students are applying for licensure with the Office of the Professions through New York State and sitting for that LMSW exam. So most of our students do very well. The knowledge is fresh if you're taking that exam right away after graduating. But we do offer a licensure prep course through our Office of Continuing Education if you'd like to take that. And then similarly, the next type of license, LCSW, is if you want to go into clinical counseling in the future, possibly open up your own private practice. Some students pursue this type of licensure after 3 years. So you do need at least 36 months of supervised experience by someone who already has their LS or LCSW. And then at that point, you can apply to sit for the exam. Again, UB offers a prep course to help you out with that exam. So if you do have questions after tonight, my contact information is there on the screen. It's tkegley@buffalo.edu. I'm your point person to help out with any application admissions related questions. Rashida, I thank you so much for helping out tonight. And you can talk to ambassadors just like Rashida by using that QR right there on the right-hand side of the screen. That will bring you to a link where you can sort students by program type. If you want to talk to an MSW online student, you can find them. If you want to talk to an on-campus student, they're there to chat with you as well about their personal student experience. And then finally, our main office email is swinfo@buffalo.edu. Again, if you have any questions about if you qualify, you want to forward your transcript to our office, that is the email that you can use.